Hey ladies, good morning. Beautiful day outside. I think Google is not allowing me to post videos. I mentioned this in a video before or two. But anyways, today we're talking about programming styles. And this was written about a year ago, so I was kind of like deep diving into how to conceptualize the code I wanted to write. Because what they teach you, it's funny, there's a guy that I actually saw an ad for it. He Yeah, what they said was what he was saying was teaching programming through writing code is the same as teaching English through letters, teaching language through letters. The idea behind language is that the combination of the elements between like the verb, the function, and the structures that can allow for these sentences to become coherent and for all of us to like figure out the rules and to be able to like apply them. Right? Like we all have these moments when we go like this doesn't sound right. It's because like there's the development of the language itself allowed for like you to kind of like grab onto like the flow of it or the structures of its rules, or mainly because like in school as well they teach us. But the idea he had was basically like programming languages are you can't teach programming for how people how to program by telling them to write code. Because the idea behind it is programming is more math and more kind of like these laws and structures of how math is connected with itself, with each other. But anyways, the programming style, and I'm writing here following the errors. There is no end result. Keep hanging with no repeats of previous states. Keep hanging with no repeats of previous states. And then there's finding the errors. Oh, there's logic with expectations. The error showed up, adapt logic, and then basically the third one is searching for errors. Understand logic fully, and when implementing, implement for errors to happen. Uh, I remember this. I remember this. It kind of clicked. So there are three basically like ways for you to code. One, which is basically following the errors. And it's the simplest. That's literally what they teach right now, or back in the day, because like I was working with a programming language that kind of like has strict rules, and some languages don't, by the way, right? Uh, English doesn't have as strict rules as Arabic. Arabic has a lot more nuances and details. It's a harder language. And grammatically, it's very intricate because it really allows you to express there's no substitution when it comes to the words, especially if you're trying to express a specific something, which is super cool. And it's the second hardest language after Chinese because Chinese is used basically in is what do they call it? It's symbol based, so there's a lot of memory in it. That's why it's super hard. But Chinese as well is all kind of like sound the same. It's just based on context. Like you, him or her sound completely different based on are absorbed differently based on context, but written differently based on the same context. So, anyways, so there are three ways. There's you follow the errors, as in like, what am I trying to write? I write it and I go like something's wrong, and then you kind of chase after like what is wrong, and anytime you fix it, you kind of check is it working or not. And then the second one is finding the error. Finding the error is kind of like having your own thought process and having a certain logical approach. The I probably started writing this because I was trying to think like no, I was more thinking as a startup-y feel, like how am I approaching things, and I just wanted to understand better my own approach to whatever it is that I was doing. So logic with expectation, the error shows up, and then we adapt the logic, as in okay, I want to go from here to the I don't know, bathroom. And like I go stand up and go to the bathroom, or stand up, walk in a straight line, go to the bathroom, right? Like we're talking about processes, so there are like a bit of things that most human beings kind of tend to forget And I always say this, and I love it. It's like, look at a baby trying to walk. When they stand up, they're kind of like doing that thing. It's like that little dance where they're kind of like trying to find their balance. It's super beautiful. But as they're trying to walk, watch how they look at their feet and how they're kind of like lifting one leg and kind of figuring out that that's what kind of like makes the other leg move, and then shifting the weight. And that slow steps, even though after 2, 3 days, like it's gone, right? Like they kind of figure it out, and if they want to run, they don't think, look at their legs anymore. They move forward. But those little like details are effectively what we build in throughout our life that support the systems and the processes that we're using. And a bigger issue is we assume those details are we look at something and we go like, oh, it's easy, go there, right? Like if I want to go to the bathroom, I can go to the bathroom. But we forget that to go to the bathroom, you have to go left, right, right, straight, straight, left, right, and open a door. And like to open a door, you have to lift your hand, you have to move it forward, you have to turn it around. And some point in the direction, at some stage, some things become inefficient. And again, like we're talking physical here, right? Some things become inefficient, and at one point you kind of start seeing people hurt themselves. Like, okay, has anyone had a relative hurt themselves after leaning down to carry something from the ground? I've seen it in front of me. I have to take him to the hospital because his back cracked. And the reason for that is because he kind of like every single time he stood up in a weak way, and he kept basically like he the smaller systems that operate were not operating properly. Like the way he stood up, he used his legs his instead of his full body weight. Instead of leaning on the legs and going up, he kind of like pushes with his hands on them. So his back lost a lot of like tension as life passed through, right? Like as time went through him. And so the day came when he leaned down to build something, and the first thing that happened was like his disc fucking slipped. Poor baby. And so it's just like these small things that kind of like end up creating that bigger result. And these are the cornerstones of these patterns. So you have your logic as in I'm going from one place to another, and then you check where there are things that kind of like do not really contribute to that logic. And I'm talking here errors, right? Like the style, because ultimately, like, and I feel like these are one, two, three after the other, because always first thing you're doing is you're following the error. Like I'm not able to stand up because I keep falling here. And then that's where the baby figures out that, okay, I have to have these legs set in a way in order for me to be able to stand up. And then finding errors, like as he's walking, you're like, I want to run. And then you go, like, okay, like, I'm walking and I'm kind of like leaning back and forth in order to stabilize. I'm finding that this has to happen this way and this has to happen this way. So I'm able to work perfectly. And the third one, which is my favorite, is searching for errors. I think I feel searching for error is where you're developing your own style. It's because like I want to play basketball, for example, and then you kind of go like, no, all right, I'm gonna try to shoot as many balls as possible in order to see how many I sink in. And as you shoot, you kind of realize where you're kind of like where your mistakes are starting to show up. Because even though your hand is strong, you're shooting in a form that is allowing like a lot more tension than usual. So after like 10, 15 shots, your body kind of goes or something, and then you have to start thinking differently. So that's the whole concept of like when Michael Jordan was telling the story that every night before he falls asleep, what he'd do is he'd grab the ball and he'd throw it up, and by doing that, he always gets to see the ball hit come where his head is, and he always throws it up and down, up and down, up and down, and that was basically one of the secrets of why he handled the ball. Anytime he threw it exactly the same, and it makes sense, right? Because like he kept doing this and this and this and this, and suddenly you're like, anytime you grab a ball, your body instantly falls into the smoothest position and the one that you're most used to. So the programming style is three of them. And I'm going to repeat them. Like three styles. First, you're following the error, as in like, oh, there's something wrong. Let me fix it. A second is finding an error. It's like it's moving, but like it's not moving the way I would want to. And then by doing that, what you're doing is you explore through like whatever is wrong or whatever could become better. And then searching for errors is when you do something specifically to find a mistake. And then you kind of like do something like I said, like you run at full speed and you go like, all right, I normally would run less than the speed by this much, and I would not breathe as hard. So like, how can I do that, or how can I just like be faster, or how can I not lose that much energy? And then that's when you're experimenting. Uh, the idea behind it is your evolution is first like the learning curve. Your learning curve is kind of like the testable moments where you kind of like, why isn't this working? And the frustration because you're in your head, you kind of like see something, like no end result, like you're writing something and you're trying your best to not fuck up, but like it's kind of breaking every single step of the way. The second one is like you have logic in your head and you have a lot of expectations behind it. So what you do is you basically just like and take steps in your logic, and then you go like, oh, there's an error here, so I find it, and then you adjust your logic, and then you move forward, so that next time you think of something, your logic is different. And the third one is like a full comprehension of your logic, because like now you understand exactly what you want to do and how you want to do it. But what you're doing is you're doing it in a way that brings out mistakes in order for you to kind of like have that experience at it. And that's basically mastery, if you want to see it that way. Fucking love it, man. Look at this. The nerd. All right, baby. It's a video, and I love you. Bye.